Before we start, take a moment to like and subscribe. How does a boy from a tiny mud brick village become a godlike dictator who rules a nation of 25 million people for decades? The story of Saddam Hussein is a chilling epic of ambition, cruelty, and a fall from grace that serves as a modern-day Greek tragedy. His life began with a striking irony. Born in 1937 in the village of Alajah, Iraq, Saddam was not the scion of a powerful family. He was an orphan raised in poverty, a boy with a profound sense of humiliation and a burning desire for a power he did not possess. He was reportedly a tough and quiet child, often turning to violence to settle disputes with other children. This early experience with poverty and a broken home, along with the mentorship of his nationalist-minded uncle, instilled in him a brutal pragmatism and a deep-seated suspicion of others' paranoia that would become a defining feature of his tyrannical rule. He was a man consumed by the need to prove his strength, to avenge his family's honor, and to escape a childhood of insignificance. His path to power was a masterpiece of ruthless cunning. He joined the Ba'ath Party at a young age, a revolutionary movement built on Arab nationalism and socialism. While others gave speeches and debated ideology, Saddam was the man who took action, an enforcer who carried out assassinations and plots with cold efficiency. In 1959, he participated in a botched assassination attempt on Iraq's leader, an act of daring that marked him as a man willing to shed blood for his beliefs. This event solidified his reputation as a formidable and unswerving revolutionary. The first major twist came in 1968 when the Ba'ath Party seized power in a bloodless coup. Saddam, then a relatively minor figure, was made a deputy to the new leader. But this was merely the first act of his grand play. He spent the next decade consolidating his power from the shadows, systematically eliminating any potential rivals, controlled the party's security apparatus, a vast network of spies and informants that allowed him to monitor every whisper of dissent from within his own ranks. He used his position to sideline his rivals on the Revolutionary Command Council (RCC), either by exiling them or by quietly having them disappear. He meticulously built his inner circle around a core of trusted relatives and tribal allies, ensuring that every lever of power was firmly in the hands of those he believed he could trust completely. His patient, methodical rise to power reached its brutal climax in a final, stunning turn of events in 1979, in a scene that would forever haunt the memories of those who witnessed it. He gathered the entire leadership of the Ba'ath Party into a single sweltering room. In a spectacle of pure terror, broadcast on state television, he stood before them and calmly read a list of traitors. As each name was called, the man was dragged out of the room, crying and pleading for his life, to be executed. The chilling message was clear and visceral. There was no room for dissent, no safety in loyalty, and no trust among men. He had eliminated his rivals in a single brutal act, a chilling purge that secured his absolute and unshakable control over Iraq. He was no longer a deputy. He was the sole, uncontested leader of the nation. Once in power, Saddam Hussein began to build a cult of personality on a scale rarely seen in modern history. His image was everywhere on billboards, posters, and towering statues in every city's square, and he was hailed as the great helmsman of the Arab world, a descendant of the legendary Nebuchadnezzar. He used Iraq's vast oil wealth to modernize the country, building schools, hospitals, and impressive infrastructure projects. But beneath this thin veneer of progress, a brutal reign of terror was unfolding. His secret police, the Mukhabarat, and his intelligence agencies held absolute power, capable of making anyone disappear at a moment's notice. The mere act of whispering a criticism of the regime could lead to the public execution of an entire family, a chilling practice designed to eliminate even the slightest hint of opposition. His paranoia was boundless. He famously had dozens of lookalikes to prevent assassination attempts, and his bodyguards were handpicked from his family and tribe to ensure their unwavering loyalty. His regime's most infamous act of cruelty was a war of choice. In 1980, with a sudden twist of imperial ambition, he invaded neighboring Iran, a costly and brutal conflict that lasted for 8 long years and claimed over 1 million lives. The great irony of this war was that he was initially supported by the United States and other Western powers who feared the spread of Iran's Islamic Revolution. The conflict devolved into a nightmarish World War I-style trench war with waves of human soldiers, including children, being sent to their deaths. The most horrific part of this war was his willingness to use poison gas against his enemies, and even against his own people. In 1988, he used chemical weapons on the Kurdish town of Halabja, killing over 5,000 civilians in a single horrific act with a cocktail of sarin and mustard gas. It was a chilling testament to his profound inhumanity. In 1990, in a disastrous miscalculation, Saddam made his final and most audacious gamble. He invaded the tiny, oil-rich country of Kuwait, which he claimed was a historical part of Iraq. The invasion, which he believed would be an easy victory, was a stunning twist that united the entire world against him, the United States leading a massive international coalition. Launched Operation Desert Storm, a brutal and decisive military campaign that liberated Kuwait and left Iraq's army in ruins. The war lasted only weeks, but its consequences would define the next decade for Iraq. Saddam, however, clung to power, his regime weakened but unbroken. For the next 13 years, he presided over a nation crippled by international sanctions and isolated from the world. He survived a decade of brutal economic hardship for his people, 2 assassination attempts, and a series of rebellions by the Shia and Kurdish populations, which he brutally suppressed. His survival became an enduring symbol of a tyrant who simply refused to fall. But his final curtain call was just around the corner. In 2003, the United States, citing a false pretext of weapons of mass destruction, invaded Iraq and toppled his regime in a matter of weeks. The fall of Baghdad was a chaotic spectacle, with the world watching as a statue of Saddam was toppled in Firdos Square. The final, humiliating time came 8 months later when he was captured, hiding in a tiny underground spider hole on a farm. The man who had once been a god, the feared and revered leader of a nation, was now a disheveled and confused old man, discovered not in a fortified palace, but in a small hole in the ground. He was put on trial, found guilty of crimes against humanity, and executed in 2006, ending a brutal legacy that had plunged an entire country into chaos. His story remains a haunting question. How could a man so utterly convinced of his own destiny fail to see the seeds of his own destruction? What chilling lesson does Saddam Hussein's reign offer about the dangers of unchecked power, the cult of personality, and the violent and chaotic nature of ambition?